So welcome everybody and thanks for joining. We've only got 30 minutes. I mean, when I realised this, I'm like, what? 30 minutes for Matt and I? There'll be a few of you online that know us both, and speaking with brevity is neither of our forte, so we'll do our best to stick to 30 minutes. But we've joined forces really to talk about a subject that is very complex, and that is waste when you are making ultra short shelf life food in a retail environment. I mean, it's like a dark art. There's no right or wrong answer, really. But there's so much to say on the topic, and it is so complicated. So hopefully we're going to unpick it a little bit for you. And hopefully we'll leave you with some tips to go away with on how you can conquer waste in whatever organisation you are running. So a little bit about me for those of you that don't know me. I have spent 23 years working in UK and Irish supermarkets, and the main thing that I've done is work out how to make money from food and beverage that you're making in the retail environment. So I've worked out how to make a P&L go around and make profit. So I've done that for 23 years. Major ones I've worked in are Marks and Spencer and Morrisons. And I'm now the CEO of Cybake, which is completely baffling my friends and family because I am one of the least techie people you would ever meet. I can't even really use my own mobile phone very well. And I now find myself leading a tech company. So that's me, and I wanted to introduce Matt. Matt and I have known each other for nearly, well, over 15 years, because I remember vividly when we first met and what job that I was doing. And so we were both cafe and ISV specialists for Marks and Spencer 15 years ago, and I covered the island of Ireland, and Matt covered the middle of the country. So we did the same job. There were 7 of us. When I first started, it did go up and down that number, but there were 7 of us, and I was then the least techie person in the team. I've just been saying to Matt before you all joined, like, I didn't work out how to use Excel until I was 30 because I left university in 2001, became a shopkeeper, and didn't really need to use a computer. So I joined this team with Matt in it. You're a bit younger than me, and he was definitely the most techie and loved a spreadsheet. So if we needed a spreadsheet, we went to Matt and he created it for the whole team. And I think he probably mastered, along with Shelley, who worked very closely with us at the time, but you built the production planning spreadsheet that M&S used in 2010 when we first worked together. We'd figured out as a team we needed something for these in-store bakeries, and we built it ourselves. And I think, Matt, you created the spready with Shelley. You then went on to create an app. I mean, you were definitely ahead of your time. You created this app. Do you remember this? Where, as a team, we used to go around and do checklists and give our stores a score on how they were doing with the bakeries and cafes. And Matt put it onto an app. I mean, you know, we might have been in 2012 by then. No one else had an app. So that's my introduction to Matt. We've known each other for a long time. We've had very different career paths, actually. I'll let you talk about yours in a sec. But yeah, over to you, Matt. Tell us about you. What have you done?
What an intro. What an intro. Yeah, I think that kind of takes us up to where we were at the end of M&S. So post M&S, I briefly left, went to work for Greg's BHS. So getting same line as Ali. And I love how you worded that, Ali, around the kind of making money out of short life products in retail. I'm nicking that for something. But yeah, that was my career. Sorry, same thing as you. Like, love that fast pace, love cafe, coffee shop, bakery environments. That's stuck with me ever since. Food, food service, food retail, food to go, whatever you end up calling it in various different guises. But yeah, so did some stints at Greg's at BHS, and then actually came back into the family. You never truly leave M&S, I don't think, once you've been through. Came back and headed up the international estate for a period of time, looking after the cafes and bakeries outside the UK. from there to then run similar kind of remit within my Coles retail group. So from Singapore to Scunthorpe was an interesting change of dynamic in my life. But yeah, ran 1,300 stores running bakeries, hot food, um, across convenience stores in the UK from the very top to the very bottom, as well as a number of subways. And then COVID struck, and that was fun. But ended up getting back into the swing of things and running the AMT coffee business. Again, similar to you, like never expected to go from kind of where we were in those early days to actually running your own business. Mine was slightly more challenged and slightly more less likely to succeed, but we had a good run at it for a couple of years. So I ran that business as MD, sold the business back 2.5 years ago, and since then I've taken that step that many foodies do, and you call yourself a consultant the next day, and here we are 2.5 years later. So I consult for businesses, as you know, Ali, but for everyone else on the call, hello, welcome. I consult for businesses across the world now. So clients in Asia, so Sri Lanka mostly, but across a couple other bits in Asia as well, Middle East, into Europe and UK. I'm possibly picking up Australia very soon. That's going to be fun. And yeah, so helping, almost like Ali said, helping people make money out of short life food, prepared food, food environments, food service in retail environments. And we've had a good run at it, don't we?
Yeah, well, we do very different things right now, but there's lots of synergy. Right, let's get to it then, Matt. We've got a lot of people on the call that want to hear from us how you conquer food waste or short shelf life food waste. And I suspect everybody on the call might have that problem, which is why they've joined. So what's your thoughts, Matt? I mean, why is there a fear in the first place?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but I think this fear currently at the minute, especially, right? So we've got everyone's facing, and I've talked from my clients in particular in the UK, huge cost challenges. We've got labour's cost has gone up, we've got NI costs have gone up, so everything's costing more to run these operations. And we've seen it with Sainsbury's and Morrisons closing down units where they're preparing that short life food because those cost challenges come through, and there's an ROI that has to be achieved. And that does lead, and I think this is getting where I know where we have some slightly different opinions at times, but it does lead operators to kind of lean to where they find the easiest lever. So waste is that one that sits there. It's a controllable cost, and I hate using the word controllable. I get my inverted commas out, but that they see it as such a controllable cost, but a cost that can just be rock bottomed, and that's my cost saving, right? I've got a 40% margin. Oh, and I'm using 7% on waste, right? I'll pull that lever right the way back to 2, and that just gives me another 5% of my bottom line. Now, the rights and wrongs of that we'll get into, but that's for me is what I see out there. That's the basis I see, and there's other layers around it as well, but that's the key thing I'm seeing.
It's interesting because you instantly thought about why managers of these businesses have a fear of it. But I just sat here then thinking, well, it's the colleagues as well. And actually, in this space that we work in, and it's why I've joined Cybake, there are global retailers around the world, making stuff that do not have production planning. Like there's many that don't even have a spreadsheet. 14 years after you created one for M&S, there's still many that don't even have a spreadsheet. And so they've got thousands of colleagues in some instances every day making decisions about how much to make without any guidance. And, all of us constantly, seeing stuff in the media about our responsibility with food waste. And I go and visit shops all the time, as you know. I learn most from colleagues on the shop floor, and they are worried about it. There's a big responsibility around what you're throwing in the bin. So I think on the one hand, they've got their managers giving them grief about it, but on the other, they've got a big responsibility on their shoulders because they're not being given the guidance
That's it.
they need, and I think that causes them fear. So yeah, I think it's both with managers and colleagues, to be honest.
And that's I think it's kind of like you said, like why have we ended up in this position now? Like my feeling, and anybody who actually looks at my LinkedIn, I'm sure many don't, but some do. My feeling around how that actually links into MPD, because I think that's what we're starting to create, and what we're seeing a lot of is without that behaviour, like you're saying, Ali, around having those production plans, or at least having those processes in place that help you manage it a bit better than nothing, it's going to stifle other things. It's
Yeah,
stifling
yeah,
new product development. It's
yeah,
stifling that innovation that we're seeing.
yeah.
You know,
I've got
that's a
I've
really
got a
scary
story
part.
for you actually about the MPD. So clearly I'm going around the world now, which I feel really privileged to do, selling this thing that we do to global retailers. And I was with one a few weeks ago, and MPD came up. And ever since this happened, I always make sure when I'm selling it in, they bring the person from MPD along to our demo. So we were in this particular retailer, and she was sat in the room, and she said, "I've got a real problem because this week I've launched a bakery item that's got something green in it. I can't remember what it was. Let's call it asparagus." And she's like, "The colleagues have literally not taken it out of the box because they've seen the green and gone, nah, our customers are not going to buy that." And they've decided whether the customer wants it or not. Yet this expert in MPD that's done all this research, together with the buyer usually, has decided this thing's going to sell and the customer wants it. But yet the colleague on the ground has seen the green, not even putting it in the oven. So that MPD stifling thing, it's real. And
It is.
unless
Yeah.
you've got a plan in place and you're telling your colleagues exactly how much they need to make of that new product and getting them to confirm they've done it, it's got no chance sometimes because it doesn't even come out of the box. And that's
Agree.
worrying. I mean, for
Yeah,
some
and
of
that's what we
our
see.
customers that are high end as well, retailers, MPD is just critical to their brand. Yet we've got this fear in the colleagues' mind because we've given them no guidance whatsoever.
Yeah,
I
see
cut
it.
into your flow there. Carry on, because
No,
I
no,
think
you're
you were
fine.
going
No,
to
you see
talk
it.
about stifling sales as well, weren't you?
Yeah, and that's it. You see it in reality as well. Like you see clients I've got, you say in UK, where you bring new product through, you try and give it space and that presence in a fixture, that presence in the store, and do something with it. Even with a good push from the center and a product that people do believe in to some degree, the mentality behind it, like you said, whether that is colleague driven, management driven, whatever, the thought of it's I've put four out and only one's gone and that's it, it's done, I'll cut it back tomorrow, because there's no longer term plan and no longer term
Yeah,
strategy and no longer term thinking around, if I allow this product to breathe, if I allow this NPD to breathe, and I do my proper communication, proper production planning, and I say it's going to have 4, 5, 6 items on display, and we're doing that for 6 weeks, boys and girls, that's it. You'll find, you may cut back a little bit on another product that's performing well, and you may trim one or two off. That's production. That's the kind of thing that you see the best in class doing. I was
yeah,
talking a session that Gavin and I ran last week. We were saying exactly the same thing. That's what the best in class do. They commit to stuff for that bit longer time. They commit to that space. They commit to that plan. They commit to that volume, and get behind it. Then, if it doesn't work, you know. But I think you're right. The bit around managing, okay, we're on MPD at the minute, but managing waste, and in particular MPD, if you've not planned this correctly, it's an
yeah.
absolute minefield.
Do you know what I'm realizing? As I'm going in and out of all of these retailers, and I've seen it in the ones that I've worked in before. There's a real lack of clarity on what the waste target should be from the leadership team, and that comes sometimes from the purpose of what the thing is they're doing. Especially when it comes to in-store bakeries, it's a question I ask when I first go in to do the sale, and I'm like, "What's the purpose of your bakery?" And sometimes you get silence, and then sometimes you get a different answer from whoever's sitting around the table. And there could be procurement in the room, MPD, but especially between commercial teams and operations teams, they are not aligned often on what the purpose of their concept is. And the problem starts there when it comes to waste, because once you know what your purpose is, defining what your waste target is becomes easy. But until you're really clear as a leadership team what the purpose is, You know, is your bakery in your supermarket because it looks beautiful, it's creating theatre and smells, and it's making people put extra in the basket? Or is the purpose of your bakery to sell as much volume, low price items as possible? And you've got to know what you are, because that's two very different waste targets. And I think
You've
you've
pretty
got to
much
get clear.
stolen what I've used for clients for the last 2.5 years, Ali. I've been making a living off of just that statement for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. Thanks. Everyone else has now got that. So that's brilliant. Uh,
But it's just
that's
get
exactly the
clear and get
point.
aligned, because there's
Yeah,
no wonder your colleagues are confused.
that's
And then
exactly it. So,
use your data to get them to hit that target. And it
but
doesn't, you know, people ask me, what target should we put in? When they buy Cybake, they're like, what should we set our waste at? And I'm like, well, you need to tell me, you know, I don't know what the purpose of your concept is. You do. Tell me what your purpose is and I can give you a guideline. But it's really striking sometimes when I go in, and you could go into any of these global retailers and every single person in the leadership team can quote the waste target for the entire food hall. Like, they all know the number, you know, whether it's 1.5% or 1.75 or whatever, they all give you the same number. You ask them for their waste target when it comes to the perimeter of the supermarket,
yeah,
confusion.
yeah, because you're right. They don't. That's the bit. I think again, I try and reference this back to best in class. So you look at those best in class operators. There's a reason for being. There's a reason for existence, and that flows through into all of these decisions that you're saying about. So my advice to anybody in this kind of space is, you know, at least once a year, sit down and rip your rule book up and just go through it and make sure you've got absolute clarity in your teams below you and teams above you have got absolute clarity on the direction. Because that's right, you said, like, it's okay, what is the waste target and why? You know, are we going for a higher 7, 8, 9% to drive volume and visual display? If so, what do we need to do with that waste to offset your first point? So how do we link with Too Good To Go? How do we set those bags up? Because they're huge. You can drive brand advocacy through that, and I've seen that through a number of clients. Or are we just trying to run this as an absolute trim every penny and drive a commercial model, and therefore it's 2, 3%? That clarity is like set in stone number one point.
Yeah.
That needs to be that session put in place to do that.
Agree. You touch on there, you know, people like Too Good To Go and others. I met another one this week called Order Lemon that's going through WhatsApp. It's pretty cool, actually, if you've not seen it. So,
Mm.
you know, sometimes the purpose of your food making space does mean that you need a higher waste target. That doesn't mean that you need to be irresponsible, you know. So making your colleagues feel comfortable about that by making sure you're partnering with companies that deal with food waste, you know, having partnerships with local charities, food banks, or using Too Good To Go to make sure that you're disposing of that waste responsibly, will also alleviate those
Mm.
fears that these colleagues and managers have got, and why they're questioning sometimes why the waste figure needs to be so high. Put those things in place that, you know, takes that worry and concern and that responsibility away, because there's
And I
plenty of
think you're,
options out there to deal with it.
and even down to the point you said, like you were talking about, like including in that is like it's that check and balance around. So if I have got NPD, or if I have got an availability target, if I have got a waste target, how do you bring that back to some degree of compliance? So again, that's another thing I see a huge benefit for in businesses that do it really, really well, who have that what I call kind of this closed loop effect. Actually, I'm going to send out what I want you to do, but I'm going to check you've done it. That, combining that with your waste mentality, actually checking that these stores and these teams have followed your guidance, whether it's NPD or whether it's the broader category, that in itself is a waste saver and a sales driver, right? So we again, I can talk from a UK client that I know we've linked up on recently that's just introduced Cybake and does a stunning job of it, and what it's done to sales and what it's done to waste by driving compliance. That in itself is a game changer.
Yeah, the compliance bit is critical, isn't it? I mean, if we're giving a tip here, never mind Cybake and what Cybake can do for you, giving your colleagues nothing is not okay. So even if you're giving them a spreadsheet, give them something and give them some sort of guidance, and then get them to comply. that compliance, that decision making, that responsibility that you're giving them if you're not giving them any guidance just needs to be taken away. Let them focus on the customer as well. I often come and find colleagues that are like trying to add up themselves. They're baking and they're trying to do the maths at the same time. And I'm like, oh goodness, you just need a production plan, because your time should be spent with the customer, and concentrating on getting that quality perfect, getting the availability right, getting stuff out on the shelf. You shouldn't have to be doing the maths. So yeah,
That's it.
give
I
them
know, because
something. Don't give them anything. If you're not giving them anything, please just give them something.
that's it.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, and we know this, right? Human decision will be different from the 100 people that you've got in a room.
yeah,
Everybody will make a slightly different decision based on the data presented to them, and that's the challenge. It's the challenge we had 13 years ago at M&S, right? It's why we put the spreadsheet in place. It was a bloody good spreadsheet, but even just that gave us a starting point of going, right, here's what we think. At least use it as a basis for your conversation. Just narrow that window of uncertainty, narrow that window of I'm going to do something a little bit different, because you see it, right? You see that live example of someone on the sales floor who'll go, right, I put 4 in the bin yesterday. I'm going to bake half of what I did today because I can't waste 4. But sometimes that 4, and I genuinely have seen this with clients, like I said, it's not nice to waste 4. We don't put 4 in the bin, but if you've got a connection with a Too Good To Go, or if you've got a connection with other routes, sometimes, and actually I'm finding now more often than not, brand customers who get a really good experience through Too Good To Go by having some waste every day, not only just availability in the store and the visual of the store, but actually getting set up through Too Good To Go, becomes this brand advocacy tool. So we've seen it with client where, name them bakers every time, but they, through their Too Good To Go, they've actually driven customers, because it's like, oh, we've got these new products, they are on Too Good To Go. People are then coming back and buying them full price. I mean,
yeah,
that in itself is a reason to have just a little bit of waste kicking around, right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly, Matt. Exactly. Do you know what I didn't do at the beginning? I forgot to tell everyone that there's an option to ask questions. It's on the bottom of the screen. So you can ask a question, and we have got a few minutes we're putting on one side at the end to answer those questions. So please do feel free to ask a question if you've got one. Matt, can we chat about data a bit? It's like data's a bit scary, isn't it? Like, if you sat here thinking not everything that Matt and Ali are saying right now needs data, like, what's your advice on getting to the right data, the use of data to help you with this, waste fear? What you got to say on
I
the
think,
subject of data?
yeah, so I think this takes us back to where we were, right? So it, we are in an age now where even the worst, lowest POS system will kick out a wealth of data, and it can sometimes be too much for some people. But even just picking through and pulling out themes. You know me, I'm a massive fan of AI and ChatGPT. I mean, gosh, even taking a spreadsheet and putting through ChatGPT, you'll get somewhere better than if you just did it from a blank start. Some of these little tips and tricks can just help you push the right data into the right columns. Look, there are experts out there. There are people who do it very well. There's reach out to people who know a spreadsheet and how to work their way around it. But I think even just start small, get data out of your till system, have a look at it, chuck it through a chat GPT or a Gemini or something. It will start to show you thematics, starts to
Yeah,
show you some of your common themes that connect, because it will just do that automatically for you. And it's a free tool. It then
yeah,
starts to show you the size of the prize of actually doing a bit more with that as an
yeah.
exercise.
And there's always data there from the tills. I mean, we'll have on the call right now, because we've got such a mixed customer base. There'll be people that are small artisan bakers listening right now, right up to global retailers. And the global retailers will be well used to getting data from whoever their till provider is. But if you're one of those smaller sort of places that's making food, do make sure you're utilizing whatever your POS system has got for you, that there will be data there, and they'll have a way of presenting it to you that's really simple. So don't be afraid to ask them. That data is there. They may just not have shown it to you. So that would be my top tip. There is a question that actually
There
just
is.
threw Matt. So this is a good one. So when price increases aren't feasible, what operational levers have you found most effective in reducing waste while maintaining turnover? I'm going to let you answer that question, but I am going to say we have a lot of customers in this space at Cybake. So we do have a lot that are in that other end of, they've got to sell it cheap, they've got to sell a lot of volume, and that's how they make money. But putting prices up is just not an option for them. We work with some big bakery chains, not Greggs, but they do stuff like Greggs. And you're probably all familiar with the 5-pack of cheese straws that Greggs do. And we've other customers that do stuff like that. Now, keeping the price point on that stuff is just critical for them, because the people that go in and buy this stuff, they've a few kids and they give them the whole packet for lunch between them. And they put 50p on that packet of cheese straws, and that customer can no longer buy them. So putting prices up just to sort your waste out, for the majority of people working in this space that we're in, it's just not an option. So what other levers can you pull, Matt?
I think there's, even from, you start with the real simple stuff. There's active selling, upselling is a great one. There's double checking your planograms. I think is really critical, because I think that's again a simple tweak of a planogram, simple tweak of a bit of active selling at a till point, a bit of sampling. All those real DNA basic starting points can be brilliant and change the game for a number of products. Yeah, I think I always am a position of you can't bank a waste percent, you can't bank a percentage. So a percentage of waste is a percentage of waste. You drive sales, it's going to look a lot better, right? So I think that's always my angle on these things. So I think but in terms of real simplistic operational levers, watch your displays, look at your quality of displays, look at all the things like lighting, look at all the things like your cleanliness, your hygiene, your upselling, because at the end of the day, that can even be the thing that drives waste.
Yeah, very true, very true. There's so much to look at as an operator. The operators in the equation are absolutely critical in this space. Having been an operator for a long time, it can be frustrating, when other functions around you do not get your reason for being. But all of those things that you've just listed there, Matt, that the operators know are the key to it and the key to success. There's another question that I will just touch on. I think this might be the final thing we discuss, but this person's asked, by doing some of the things that we've been talking about, how does this affect your sales? Perhaps we've not been explicit enough about that, Matt, with what we've said, but sales are everything, right?
Yeah. Saying yes, if you can driving that top line by some of those activities, like luckily we've just said, is around lighting, displays, upselling. That those are the things that even if you've got £100 waste, it might £110 of waste might creep up. Actually, the percentage and your overall profitability improves. It's through doing the right things with sales. I think the other question around in new products is the same thing. You drive sales of new products, you drive performance. Your waste risk is managed and mitigated, right? It's definitely a two-handed thing. Displays are critical to it. So we talked about voluminous displays. That's there as a sales driver, right? That's there to be pushing sales through your business. People don't buy things that have got one thing left on a plate. They don't. It's twos, it's threes, it's four, and that's hard to buy into that mentality, but that's the reality of it.
Remove your fear, isn't it? This waste fear, you've got to get over it and move on, because it is stifling your growth. So if you're sat there feeling still fearful of waste, hopefully we've given you a few tips there to take that fear away. But it absolutely must go. Again, when I'm selling this product in global retailers, really, often the first question people ask me is, how much will it save me on waste? And I'm like, well, typically you'll see a 15% reduction in your small waste number, but by driving your availability, you'll get a 10% increase in sales. So your waste saving just falls into the background compared to all this additional money you're going to drive in by selling and just being brave with that waste and being a bit less fearful about it.
And I like the last question actually. Can waste targets hinder innovation? I think this is quite funny because I might have used this. We've spoke about this in the past, but I find the word target quite interesting with waste, because everyone goes it's not a target in most people's minds. It's an upper limit. it's a 5% upper limit and everyone's got to be below it. And if you're way below it, you've done brilliantly. And I think that's the mentality that's just got to shift a little bit to enable some of this. So can it hinder innovation? Yes, if it's not handled right. I think if you talk about, as I try to use some of my clients, talk about wastage, it's got to be a bandwidth. It's got to be between 4 and 6. 6 over 6 a
Yeah.
bit too high, under 4 a bit too low. But if you're pitching in that line, that's how you allow yourself to stay creative. That's how you allow yourself bandwidth and breadth and area to breathe for product, and allow yourself the chance to drive sales and take chances whilst not hindering the profitability and the margin of the category, right? You can find other ways. There's other ways to find a couple of percent. There's ways to drive the top line that make that 4% look even smaller.
Matt, I think that's your final top tip. And to summarise, I think what you've just said is lose the word target from your vocabulary and call it a guide when it comes to making of short shelf life stuff in a retail space. So we'll leave it there, Matt. I think we've done 30 minutes quite easily. No shock there, but I think our marketing team have got a plan to do a few more of these. So we'll touch on some other topics, I'm sure, over the next few weeks. But hopefully that's been really helpful for everyone that's joined, and it's felt like 30 minutes of time well invested. Both Matt and I, would really welcome any of you reaching out if you've got any more questions. We're both on LinkedIn and we're quite active on there. You can find me at ali.lyons@cybake.com. So please drop me an email if you want to drop me an email as well. But yeah, thanks very much for dialing in, and we hope that we see you all again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.